And a very warm welcome to all of you. And in conversation with me today is my very special friend and guest, Marla Goldberg. She's an energy healer, an intuitive speaker, host of Guided Spirit Conversations podcast, and best-selling author of My Long Journey to Loving Myself. I'm sure she's going to correct me on that bit there. But Marla began her spiritual journey when her life hit rock bottom. She serendipitously, around that same time, met her first spiritual teacher and attended her first mystery school. And after graduation, she continued to develop techniques, and now she's up to 24 different techniques. So we're going to talk about her book. We're going to talk about her journey from rock bottom, if she wants to do so. We're going to talk about her healing, and if we get a chance, this new project she's working on, which is the Global Consciousness Summit, which she's invited me along to be involved in, which I'm really quite honoured to do so. And you may recognise her when I put her face up. She hosted our guided meditation at the weekend. So without further delay, let's say hello to Marla. Marla, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mike. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Well,
thank you.
I tell you what, it's been a long journey for all of us working in the spiritual realm and this healing model. Most of us, not exclusively, but most of us start off our journey through some kind of experience. I mean, for example, how do we know what love is if we don't experience pain? So we've got to then really know what love is. But what is your journey from rock bottom? Is that something you want to talk about, or?
It's fine. I'm an open book. I talk about everything.
Okay.
Because it's the only way for people to, if you're filtered and you hide things, how are people going to really understand where you've been and why you are the way you are?
Yeah.
And so, so in my book, My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, it's the story, it's my memoir. It talks about, my parents were both professionals, but what was going on in the house was so dysfunctional. From the outside, everything looked so wonderful, and wasn't this a great family model, but really not so much. Right. And a lot of judgment, criticism. I write in the book that when I was, I think about 4 or 5 years old, I was with my father, and I was a very giggly child. I laughed at everything. I was joyful. And I remember touching the radio or hearing something on the radio and laughing. And I remember him, I can't remember if he slapped my hand or not, but he yelled at me and he told me to stop laughing, that not everything is funny. And all of a sudden I became a very somber child. I mean, it was a total shutdown of my joy and the person I was. And that's just one example. And then during my formative years, I had my high school boyfriend. We got engaged. The engagement didn't go through, and it broke my heart. And because we broke it off 4 times, but the last time was the final time. And after that, I started making so many decisions that didn't serve me well. I thought I was thinking them through. I lived with the motto of having no regrets. But then, after, fast forward decades later,
right.
I go, oh my God, what were you thinking? What mushrooms were you eating to make those kind of decisions in your life? And I'm not talking just romantic. I'm talking professional, the way I handled situations. It was horrible. And I wasn't taught how to deal with conflict resolution. And I wasn't taught how to process emotions and feelings. My parents weren't capable. They didn't know how. So how could they teach me to know how?
Sure.
And so in my first marriage was a man I dated when I was 18. And 20 years later, we got back together. And I really was more drawn to helping his children. And it was almost like, what was it? What archetype? I'm trying to think of the archetype. The savior archetype came out in full blossom. And it's like, yes, I'm going to come in and I'm going to make everything wonderful and great. And I've started 2 businesses and they've done very well. And if I could do that professionally, I could do that in my personal life. And that was one of the most major regrets of my life.
Okay. Yeah. So this was really a case of looking after other people at the expense of yourself. In other words, you forgot to love yourself first.
Well, I thought I was loving myself, but when I look back, no, I did not love myself at all.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to figuring if I could prove myself, if I could get that ungettable relationship, if I could change my, the household and make it functional and get my husband, who was a very abusive alcoholic, to stop drinking, to be loving, to be the guy he was when I knew him in my teens, because he was an amazing guy. And then fast forward, he had been through so much stuff. And he was angry and bitter, and he just kept drinking, and he was not planning on stopping. But the kids, the good news is, the kids got what they needed. They got guidance. They got structure. Sometimes, looking back, I might have been a little too firm, but it was to offset what was the dysfunction from their father.
Right.
But they're functional people. They're adults. They're in their 30s. They're now able to live life functionally, because they had someone to teach them how to do it.
Right. So this process initially was a self-learning process.
Everything is a self-learning process, isn't it? I mean, what we come to learn is that every experience we have, positive and negative, is, I call it a stepping stone to growth and learning, and to be able to handle things, hopefully, better. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to keep repeating them until you do learn.
Yeah, unfortunately, in my work that I'm doing, I'm meeting people that are still at that stage where they keep repeating the same mistakes. And there isn't a magic wand to this. You have to work your way through it. And there is no one solution for this either. So before we get into that, how did you come across your first teacher? Because, as you say, it was no accident that you had to have all this experience of this disappointment and live with an alcoholic husband and so on, and basically fight your way through all this, and then lo and behold, you meet a spiritual teacher. Then it changed, I presume.
Well, it took a while to change, but people use the onion metaphor. I use the artichoke. And the reason I use the artichoke is once you get through all the layers of leaves, you get to the heart.
Right.
And it's all about the heart for me. But what happened was I was going into a very deep depression, and I truly felt like a deer in headlights, just paralyzed in my life. And there was a women's conference, and I was looking through it thinking, oh, do I want to go? And there was someone talking about how to heal yourself. And I heard, this is for you. And little did I know that was my guidance talking. It wasn't my brain. And I went to go listen to her speak. And she was talking about how to heal yourself. And I had been in therapy from 1 month after my marriage. So this is 7 years in of constant therapy, like at least once or twice a week, to deal with what was going on in my household. And everything she said resonated with me. When you're doing speaking, they ask those initial questions. Well, I could have just left my hand up the entire time. And so, I went to go learn more about it the following week. And I kept hearing a voice say, what do you have to lose? Nothing else is working. What do you have to lose? And I joined the school. And the first day of the first mod, like in the morning, so it was very early on, we learned how to ground. And we did this exercise. It was a psychic exercise. And I had my first known psychic experience.
Uh-huh.
And it's just this quick thing where you sit knee to knee with your partner. Yeah. One partner has their hands up, the other has their hands on top. Right. And you just breathe. You connect with their high self, and you breathe, and you for like 5 minutes, and you see what you get. And I got 3 pieces of information. And when I relayed it to her, my partner, they were spot on. It was like, oh my God, I'm able to do this. I was so excited. We all are able to do it. Yeah. We just have to get out of our heads and exercise that muscle.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it progressed. I went the whole 3 years to graduation, learned 14 healing modalities.
Wow.
And it was the second to last modality where I had my breakthrough. And I handed the teacher a piece of paper with something on it, and she looked at me and she said, well, your issues are neglect and abandonment. And that was it. I mean, I wailed. I didn't just cry for 5 days. I wailed for 5 days. My face was so swollen. And then that is, 3 months later, I'm going to go, 4 months later, I'm going to graduation, and I cried through the whole thing. But the good news is all this stuff that, that was pent up started to release. And then I continued with some of my favorite techniques of release and, kept working it until I could finally get to a place of forgiving.
Right.
Yeah. I got to release, then I was going to forgiving myself, which is the hardest thing to do, is to forgive yourself for your transgressions, for your bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, many aficionados will say, well, there are no bad decisions. These are just lessons and not life sentences. And of course, that's true. It's not very helpful when you're going through it at the time. But the other thing as well is that what I have to tell a lot of people is, be kind to yourself, because you'll never speak to anyone more than you do yourself all day. So to continually berate yourself all day, and you saw the article I wrote, it destroys the warrior within. You start to feel that you're completely worthless, completely useless. And this is no way to get out and to start to heal yourself and have a successful relationship, no matter what it is, work or personal. So when you meet somebody that's in need of healing, do you instinctively know, I've got to use this model on this someone, or do you have to work through it a little bit first?
I talk to them. I want to hear from their words, because I connect from when I talk to people, that's when I'm able to really connect and get information and share it out.
Right.
So through talking to people and hearing what their issues are, what's plaguing them, will determine what it is that I need to do. Yes.
Right. And how long? It's an impossible question to answer, I think. But what is the process for healing? Can you do this in 3, 4, 5 sessions? Is there no middle ground here? Everyone's individual. It can happen just like that, or it can take a year.
It depends on the person. So what I talk about is, first of all, the person needs to be open-minded to receive and follow guidance. Yeah. Because it's, great, you get some information, it's a start. But if you don't work it, like anything else, like any muscle, like anything, like any habit, if you don't work it, it's not going to change. No. If you just hear and say, okay, I'm positive, but yet you spew negative stuff, you're not positive. No. You get angry and you say horrible things, you're not positive. And here's the thing, I call it the boomerang effect, is whatever you put out into the energy will come back to you tenfold. So if you walk around saying, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'll never amount to anything, or like in the Notebook where the mother keeps saying, I'm such a stupid woman, I'm such a stupid woman. Well, you're going to continue to be the stupid woman because you're putting that out into the universe.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about this before, and your mind knows no difference between a real event or an external event. So to use the example which I use when I give talks, if you're sitting at home watching a horror movie at 12 o'clock at night and you're alone, you give it 10 minutes and you won't feel like you're alone for very much longer. It's the way it is. Your mind knows no difference. So,
it's so true.
And if you are told you're useless all the time, then your mind will just believe it because that's what it's told. It's not rationalizing, well, Mike, that isn't you saying that. That isn't your feelings. That's someone else, so don't worry about it. Unless you keep in check your thoughts and your feelings, the brain will start to believe it. And then we have what's called the monkey brain. It's there. And you've got to deal with this all the time. Every time you try pushing yourself out of this situation, the monkey brain comes in, you're useless. This is comfortable being useless. Let's stay useless.
Well, it's the devil you know rather than the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If you keep thinking negative things, it's not going to change your situation. And the best example for what you just said is, I say this often, is in Pretty Woman. There's a scene with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and they're in bed, and he's telling her how she has very special abilities. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Yeah. And she turns around and she goes, You know how it's just easier to believe the bad stuff. And that's the reality. You hear so much bad stuff. When something positive comes into your energetic field, it's hard for you to embrace it and believe it. Yeah. But if you stop your negative thought process, now it's not easy. It's taken me years. I use the technique clear delete. You could say cancel, clear delete, transmute, clear delete, whatever, however it works for you. But you say it 3 times. So if you have a negative thought about somebody, or you've just said something negatively, or you have a negative action or projection, immediately say clear delete, clear delete, clear delete, or cancel, clear delete, whatever it is you want to, however you want to do it. But make sure you say it and say it 3 times, because basically what it does is it stops that negative energy in its tracks from going out into the ethers and coming back to you.
Yeah. And is it important to say it out loud rather than just
out loud?
Say it? It's important to say the words.
Here's the thing. You could say it in your head, but when you put something out into the ethers verbally, it is power. It shows more power. As it was explained, it becomes more 3-dimensional when you say it verbally rather than think it.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me.
And you can do this work over the phone via Zoom, and do you do this in a group therapy also?
I have workshops, but they're more they're hands-on, face-to-face workshops. But I am working on putting together a class that will be done by Skype or Zoom. But at this point, it's in the working process.
Okay.
Or it's a working process.
Well, let's move on to your podcasts, Guided Spirits podcasts. What days do they come on, and what are the guests? Because they're all to do with healing and consciousness and all this kind of environment. So what's in store? What's the future lineup, and who have you had, and where can we hear you? You're on Voice America. Which is, I mean, that's just a great station, Voice America.
It is a great station, and it's live. So when I have my show on, which are Thursdays, noon Eastern time, 12 o'clock Eastern time, and who are some of my guests? Well, Mike Cavalli.
Yay!
You are one of my favorites.
Thank you.
But I have had people from all different kinds of healing modalities. So Voice America or YouTube or Facebook, we do record on both. So if you've missed the live show, you could catch it on YouTube, and you could catch it on Facebook on my Guided Spirit Conversations Facebook page. Right. And what we do on the show is we talk to healers, metaphysicians, thought leaders globally. And so what my goal is to spotlight people that you may not find or know of, but who are really powerful in what they do. And for the listener, I want to give them disseminated information that can help them in their life, that can help trigger an idea, epiphany, or give them a tip, tool, technique that they can easily incorporate in their life to help shift what's going on.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because sometimes all it takes is just that one word. Just that one thought to plant the seed. And that can quite often happen by having a guest on the show. Now, you had Alison Stillman, who led the meditation on your show. There's been a great response to that meditation.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the Mercury retrograde, they're messing up everything. Which, and it's still playing havoc with the electronic stuff here as well. But yes, she was on the show, and also you have some Native Americans on the show, or is he coming on the show?
I've had Malku Alvarado, who is a Peruvian shaman. Mm-hmm. He's been on the show. I've had Missy Hart, who I adore. She's a psychic medium. I've had Amanda Marquez. She's a psychic medium. I have had Chris Moses. She's a shaman. I've had people come on. Last week I had Tom Swindell, and Tom is an energy healer, and he was born with the ability. And there are people who, everybody has the ability. Some people are born insensitive and are open from childhood. Other people, such as myself, they always had it, but it wasn't developed. They were shut down for some reason, or they're always in their head, so they can't hear it. I mean, I've had my show for almost 2 years. And if you think once a week for 2 years, that's a lot of guests.
It's a hell of a lot of guests. And we'll put the link up when the show goes out. I find it's better if I put it up on the show page, on the notes page, then people can click the link and then they can just get up there and click and away they go.
Yes.
Your new project, which I'm very thankful that you've invited me on board, the Global Consciousness Summit.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is a special thing. So, please tell us about the Global Consciousness Summit. What's it about? What we're trying to achieve? And it's a big project. It's a massive undertaking. And I actually think when we look back, we've done some incredible work at the moment, even though it actually hasn't. Well, it's beginning to show the fruits of our labour now. At this,
yes.
Actually, this day that we speak, it's beginning to show the fruits of our labour. So
it's shifting.
Tell everyone what's going on here with the Global Summit.
So the Global Consciousness Summit, we've decided to do that because what we wanted to do is make our viewers aware, of issues that are plaguing the globe. And yes, there are the issues with climate change, animals going extinct that support our ecosystem, bees that are going extinct that support our ecosystem, the waterways, cleaning those up, cleaning up the oceans. We want to do that. And we're peppering it with spiritual issues as well, to help people, so we're going to talk about bullying, compassion, and self responsibility. We're going to talk about crystal healing and how it's powerful, self-love, forgiveness.
Right.
And we're doing this because we want to put this out into the universe. We want people to understand that they are the solution. Yeah. And they're the solution for themselves and they're solution for the globe. And if we come together and all put our efforts together, we can turn it. And there's a very small window, especially with issues like climate change, the water, the forestry, animals, because, we're on the precipice of really things going extinct and the changes, the damage being so big that we will not be able to turn it around. So, it's a call to action. Right. It's, there's entertainment, there's a call to action. And there's a lot of wonderful information that we're going to have shared by amazing people who just are such experts in their fields. Yeah. So that's the Global Consciousness Summit. But I would like to mention the other thing, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Fire away.
Thank you. So there's the Global Consciousness Development Circle, the GCDC, which you can find the page on Facebook. And Mike is also involved with that as well. And this is an educational platform. We have bi-monthly meditations you can tune into, which is for free. We're offering classes. There's vlogs. There are blogs. There's a lot of great information that you're able to tune into. And, educate yourself fully, more fully if you choose to. So I wanted to bring that up because I'm so excited about that platform as well, because Allison will be a teacher on it. Karen Copperwaith, who is an angel communicator, she will be doing classes on it. And there's so many other people who are lined up to participate. So I wanted to let people know to start checking the GCDC out.
Perfect. And as you know, and many of the listeners will know, but there'll be many that won't, that we know that when we get a sufficient number of people together and we focus on an outcome, a single outcome, then quantum law says that must happen. It has to happen.
We raise the vibration.
Yeah. And this has been proven, as I've spoken about on your show many times, when they prayed for reduction in crime over Washington. It reduced crime by 23%. I won't go into all the details now, but it wasn't chance or luck. These experiments, there's hundreds of them, hundreds and hundreds. And it doesn't only, this collective consciousness doesn't only work to make positive negatives, if you like. It can also, there was the Rhode Island study where it increased quality of life. So it wasn't to reduce crime or stop this or stop that. The quality of life was great, but they meditated on a better quality of life. And they did this over a 7-year period, I think. And when they stopped meditating, the quality of life dropped a little bit, but it still remained higher, much higher than the quality of life before they started meditating. So all this stuff really works. And if we educate ourselves in certain areas and focus our attention on these certain areas, then without any doubt, then we can start to see a change. Many will be aware of the 100th monkey experiment, and I invite people to look at the 100th monkey experiment because basically this is what's happening with us. Once we reach that magic number, then it happens. And for us, it was worked out that it was 1% of the square root of a given population. So if you're looking for peace in a neighbourhood of 10,000 people, I think it needs 10 people to meditate daily as a minimum to turn it around. But imagine what you can do if you're focusing your attention on that with thousands. And this is why in the big super churches, people do get off their crutches. When you've got thousands of people willing them to do this, temporarily they will, that's for sure. Whether they continue after is dependent on how much of the energy retains with them and their belief. But the point is, we have the technology already to to do this. And as I think it was Martin Luther King that said, we've got to organise ourselves equally as effective as those that organise war, and then we can change this world. We can, without getting too political, we can bypass governments with quantum thinking, the law of intention. It has to happen. And governments will have to follow. They'd have to follow the law or they will fall. So it's an exciting time for us. And we can all be part of this change. So, Marla, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up? If you could give us some details about your book. Again, first of all.
Oh, My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, is a partial memoir and partial self-help, because in the back of the book, there are tools, tips, techniques that I used and still use that helped me turn my life around. And my goal by writing the book is to help the audience who reads it turn their life around too. Because if I could do it, and I'm just an ordinary woman, with extraordinary skills, but the skills were developed, and they were developed by some of these tips, tools in the back of the book. So I invite you to read that. I did want to put in a plug for our meditation on next Saturday, a week from this Saturday, which is, I'm sorry, I don't have the date in my mind. I'll tell you in 1 second. It'll be the 14th of March. And what I'd love to do is a social experiment by you joining us for the meditation. And I would like you to focus with me on the election in the U.S. because it's really important. It's important for the environment. It's important for the global issue because of what's going on. And see if we can't meditate and send love and peace and great intentions, and see if we can't shift what's going on here, which will then, domino to the world.
Yeah. I mean, when we do our healing circle every second Tuesday, we always send out the healing thoughts for the global leaders, that they will make the right decisions for all mankind. And that's much more powerful than saying, let's meditate for this one or that one, but not this one or that one.
Right.
We do our part and the universe will take care of all the details.
This is true. But the social experiment piece is, as we know that what's going on here, they have changed, the environmental laws and that are very damaging to this world.
Yeah.
And so if this administration stays intact, God only knows what 4 more years will do.
Right.
My hope is that we can get the right person in who's going to be good for globally everyone, every situation. Absolutely. No racist bans on people. I mean, that's very demoralizing to think that just because you come from a certain country that you're not allowed in because you're now labeled dangerous or bad or Hillary Clinton used the word deplorable. Like you're a deplorable. Well, you're not. You're love. You're everybody has essence of love in them, even if it's blocked. Right. So, if you bring the right people in, then we can have more love go out to the world and more peace go out to the world, and we could come together as a unit. Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. And so, one more time, your podcast, where can we find you again?
Guided Spirit Conversations can be found on Voice America, voiceamerica.com/show/3900/guided-spirit-conversations, or go on YouTube on the Guided Spirit Conversations page.
Yeah, or just look at the show notes and click on the link. That's going to be far easier. Okay.
That's right.
So, Marla, thanks for coming on. It should have happened a long time ago, but
thanks for the invitation.
Better late than never.
It's not late. Everything happens in its divine timing, right? So this is the time I'm supposed to be with you, and I am grateful. And I say thank you. And thank you all for listening to this show. I'm grateful.
You're welcome.